Hello and welcome to an episode on LMS sensitization. And today I want us to deal with assignments, how to set them up and ensure students have access to them in the requisite time. And also an aspect of how do you give feedback, and we will take a glimpse at submissions, how to handle them and go on and grade. I'm on the homepage of the Cambridge Graduate School LMS, and I'll log in to commence. Now, I've set up a course that will allow us to use it as a reference for any key concept we need uh, to relook at in the execution of e-learning activities. So typically when you log in as a faculty member, the menu that you will see are after the blue header on the right hand side, you'll be typically on the homepage. Then we'll have a dashboard and my courses. So you're mostly interested in my courses. So these are the courses that are affiliated to you as a faculty member. So mine, for instance, is this e-learning sensitization course. And this is the normal shape of a course. You will have the general area and an introduction, and then the modules. So under module 1, where we have evaluations and grading, that is where I want to add my module on assignments and do a demonstration of how an assignment is set up and all the elements that glue it together. So without further ado, I will expand my evaluations and grading module, but I quickly realize there's nothing over there. And the reason is that when you view a course, by default, it's in read-only mode. So you need to be an editing teacher or a manager or an admin for you to alter the contents of a course. Now, remember here we want to add an assignment activity. So what I have to do at the very top on the right-hand corner, we have the edit mode switch, which I will flip on. Upon toggling it, the page should reload and the course material should come in. The course content should come in with pen icons beside it. And I can see there's a facility to assist us in adding an activity or a resource. Now I'll click on that link and it brings up a pop-up with all the possible activities or resources that I can add. So for us, we are interested in an assignment. That is what we will add. If, for instance, you wanted to add anything and a particular activity, let's say you want to add a database, you want to add some feedback activity, and you can't seem to find it, what you do, you go to the search input and type what you want to add. Assignment, for instance, in my case, and here it is. I can click on it and it takes me to the form that aids me in creating a particular assignment. Now I have prepared an assignment for demonstration purposes, and in this section we are going to look at the key components that would be of interest for you as a faculty to create an assignment. So number one, we have a section on general area, which is critical. We have the availability section, then we have the submission type and feedback type. So the top 4 elements are the most critical for setting up the assignment. Then the others are secondary, but also some of them are quite critical, like the submission settings. So that will be able now to restrict the kind of feedback or submission that you get. For instance, if we only want PDF assignments, we are able to define that under the submission settings, which is setting number 5. And then the other thing is the drill bit. This is an add-on that we have added, pretty unique. This does not come with Moodle by default. It is something that we added, and it is a subscription-based service. Ideally, rather a plagiarism tool that you can define the threshold for plagiarism, what would be acceptable, and without which then the student knows automatically that they need to revise their content to fit into what you've agreed as the threshold. So without further ado, I'll go to the first section, the general area. These will basically bring in the metadata, the information about that assignment. And we have a name and a description. A name is mandatory. So this one, we begin with a name. You could say this is assignment 1. And you could go to the specifics of the description, or of the name rather. So I had prepared something. Let me see where it is. On my notepad here, on my OneNote. So I'll copy the title and then the description. So remember, the description will carry the general descriptive nature of the assignment and the subject problem. So I'll copy the description and the problems, the assignment problem. So our sample assignment takes in 2 questions, each with a score of 25. So that brings the maximum score to 50. And I'll show you where that becomes relevant. So we have set our assignment. At this point, it has almost everything it needs to be operational. So the other thing I could say, please note all submissions should be in PDF format. So the activity instructions, so these will be seen by the individual who is doing grading. So if you wanted to give a guideline on how this should be evaluated as a faculty member, then you could give. This is not necessarily a subcomponent that students are interested in. For the student, the most critical thing is the assignment name and the description. The description will actually guide the course of this activity. So remember, we have given a basic description of what this is. So we are saying this is an assignment to evaluate understanding of key public health challenges, and we say each question has 25 marks. We ask them to ensure that the responses are well researched, evidence-based, and all that kind of data, and then you give the subject problem for the assignment. It could be one question, 100 marks, but with a weight of 20 or weight of 5. So here we are basically setting what the student is expected to do. And I'll scroll down. So if instead of typing I had a file, a PDF file, or a Word document with my questions, you could attach. But in this case, we have done that in the description. Now, that is all in regards to the general details of the assignment. For availability, this is where now we define timelines for this particular task. So we have 4 data points. We have allow submissions from. Actually, this is the effective date from when submissions should start coming in, or when the platform will allow for submission of the assignments. Then we have due date, cutoff date. The cutoff date is the maximum date that would allow submissions. The due date is when ideally the submissions are allowable. Then remind me to grade by. So that is for the faculty. It sends an email notification to the lecturer telling them you have submissions and they're due for grading by you. So let's just set our example timelines. So allow submission from, let's say, 5th October. And due date, we could say the due date is, let's say, 8th. And anyone who will not have submitted by midnight 8th October 2024, then they wouldn't be able to submit unless we define a cutoff date, which we would say let's add a day or 2 after the due date. So ideally this should be, let's say, 1 day after the due date, and let's say midday, let's say noon. Where is it? So that's it. Then remind me to grade you as a faculty member. When would you want to be notified that you should grade these particular assignments? And let's say this should be 20th of October. Yeah. So that's it. Those are basically the timelines. Then would you want to show these timelines as part of the description? So if you would want to do that, then check this checkbox. Else, uncheck it. So for me, I would want to do that. Ideally, it's a good practice. Then submission types. So we said you're dealing with PDFs. PDFs are much easy to deal with and convenient, because you know you will not inadvertently delete anything in a PDF, or it won't be easily corruptible. So we'll go with the file submission. Then maximum number of uploads. Ideally, this should be 1. You do not expect students to be. Let me see. I'm not able to select one. Yeah, there it is. The maximum submission size is 2 MB is adequate, or we could just leave it at 5 MB. Then accepted file types. So remember, you do not want to accept, you've already told them you want PDFs. So you need to restrict that at the point of submission. So you just click inside this input box, this text input, and you highlight everything using Control A, then delete, and you say .pdf, a period, then PDF. So that should do it. If I click on choose now, so you can see everything else is unchecked except for the document files of type PDF. Then I'll save. Then I'll go to feedback type. This is now where the faculty member, the lecturer, is giving feedback after submission. What kind of feedback would you want to give? So I'll expand that. So you see what has been checked ideally will work for us. Many LMSs will not have annotated PDF by default, because that has to be configured to be activated. So we have done that. So this gives you the ability to update directly, not to update, but to superimpose your input while grading. For example, you could draw a circle, you could add a comment within the document that has been submitted, and the student will see their content alongside with your observations as a lecturer. So we allow for feedback comments and annotate PDF. You are able to actually draw on top of what this. It's like using a red pen on a paper, but only that now this is digital. And we will do this, we will actually demonstrate this after we have finished with all the components that come together to set up an assignment. So that is feedback type. Defaults will work here. Then submission settings, require student to click the submit button. It's very good to allow, it's in order to allow the student to take ownership of the submission action. So let them do that, and require the student to accept the submission statement. Yes. So this is basically like a confirmation, and again we will demonstrate that from the student perspective. Additional attempts, you could say you're giving an additional allowance for attempts. Let's say the plagiarism aspect kicks in and the threshold does not meet. You would want to allow them or give them an allowance to resubmit. Let's say in that particular case, you select manual, and then maximum number of attempts would be 1, or whatever it is that you want, but ideally one would suffice. So those are the critical aspects. Those are the, I would say, the must-haves in setting up an assignment. So we've seen the general, the availability, which defines timelines, the submission type. Ideally, this one you have the submission type. It is advisable if you want PDFs, please do not fail to mention that in the accepted files option. Now, the other critical aspect I would want to showcase is the plagiarism bit. We could do plagiarism and grading. For grading, for most cases, these will be defined in the gradebook, which we will see later. But in our case, since we have two questions summing up to a maximum of 50 as the maximum grade, we could upgrade this. But it's not mandatory, but it's a good practice to do it. That is 50. Then we could go to the drill bit anti-plagiarism tool. Then the only thing you need to do here is to say whether you would want it to be used in this assignment or not as the student is submitting. So what I'll do, I'll say yes. And again, I'll display these aspects when we look at the student perspective in a different video. Then use drill bit, yes. Show reports to student, yeah. It's very critical to show the student the output of the plagiarism check. Then exclude references. You could say yes if you have referenced properly, then there's no need to penalize the student for referencing. Then exclude quotes. You could say yes or no, depending. Would you want to view quotes, direct quotes, which have not been attributed as plagiarized? So you could say yes, no. Yes would suffice since it's a quote in anyway. Then exclude small sources. You could say no. Then that's it. That is all we have. Those are the contents that make up an assignment, a properly done assignment. So we could save and return to the course, and then we could drill down to the assignment. So here it is, the assignment that we just set up. So the timelines are there in the description. So I could click on it, and ideally, this is what the student will see. So you have the description as set, the timelines are set, the due date, the opening date. It's very clear, and the assignment problem or the tasks. So that's it. The assignment doesn't have much in it. Once you set it up, it will be open on this open date that we set up for our timelines. And once the deadline is done and submission is successful, a faculty member will be able to click to view all submissions and also, or even grade, right? So when you click on grade, let me just click on this to show you what you'll see. You'll see the first assignment to the last, and you'll be able now to select for all the users. You'll be able now to select for each user. You can scroll. You'll be seeing the assignments as you proceed, as you grade. So, and after, or even if you don't want to use these arrow icons for navigating to the next student, you could finish with the assignment, which has been displayed here. Remember, here we have not even activated anything. We're just displaying what the faculty will see when they click on grade. So you could save. Once you finish with one assignment, you could save and show next. If you show next, then it brings the next submission of the next student. So I'll just go back. So the submissions would appear under, and where you see nothing to display. If we had anything, that is where they would appear. So I'll go back and to my course under e-learning, back to the assignment. So the other thing that you could see from that page is the grading summary. So if there was anything wrong, for instance, you realize you have 40 students, but you can only see one participant, then you know automatically there's a logical error or students have not been onboarded on your course. So this is it's a good summary to look at. And this is what will show you what has been submitted, the assignments that are still that have been done but are not yet submitted, which appear as drafts, and what needs to be graded. So ideally, if you grade like 5 and you had 40 students, you'll see 35 assignments need grading. So here, the time remaining, this is the time remaining for submissions. So this will show you anytime you come to the detailed page of the submission and you view the summary, you will be able to see it is the difference between today and the due date. So for instance, we've said here the due date is 8th of October and we are at 2nd October. So based on the time and date, we have 5 days and 10 hours to the submission. So the next video will be showing the view of the assignment from the student perspective. That, I believe, has covered everything a faculty needs to reference and look at when you're designing your assignments. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. Till next time, I trust this adds value.